Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, and this segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. Booksgrowbusiness.com is the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. We're celebrating the forthcoming release on Amazon and Kindle and other bookseller platforms of Post-Pandemic Profits, Keys to Thriving in the Face of Adversity, with a number of contributing authors that are leading business, marketing, and sales experts. So you'll be able to find that on Amazon and Kindle as we speak. Joining me on this segment of the program is Zach Hayes. He's the owner-operator of FAMS Printing out of Romeo, Michigan. Zach, welcome to the program.
Mark, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. Zach, tell me a little bit about your business, just a brief overview and the type of folks that you serve.
Absolutely. So we do custom apparel printing and embroidery. So it's anything, think of your t-shirts, hats, all that good stuff that you might see for different sectors of business like restaurants, schools, staff uniforms, etc. So I mean, we do a lot of work with local businesses. We're in a small town. We've got a retail location in our on our main street here. So we get to interact with a lot of different kind of businesses and people who have been in the community for years, and 15 years of business now. It's a town I grew up in, kind of have been making my go at it here. And we get a lot of great community support, and it's been some really good growth here that we've seen over the last few years. And we actually just opened up kind of a spin-off of our store in a place called Birmingham, which is a little bit closer to the city of Detroit, opening that right around the time the pandemic hit. So that was a very interesting experience, to say the least.
Oh, I see that you mentioned that you're about 30 minutes north of Detroit. Is that right? And then your new location is closer to the city. Yeah, tell me, give us an example of like what is the bulk of your business? What type of organizations or folks use your service?
Absolutely. Primarily what really saw our initial growth was working with different schools, doing all their spirit wear, doing a lot of the team wear and coach uniforms. So that was something that really got our foot in the door. We started working with a lot of the parents on that end because they were ordering for their student or for their kids. And as we grew, we came to build relationships with those people, and we found ourselves working with a lot of those people who were also small business owners. So maybe the kids are ordering for their team, but dad owns a construction company and he needs shirts for his crew. And that really started to expand our business to where we are more focused now on business to business clients than the schools, because we did have to pivot a little bit, especially with COVID and the school shutdowns. It made us really kind of refocus and see how we're going to service more of the business community because their needs are changing as well throughout all this.
Well, let's jump right into that. Tell me about your new location. As you mentioned, it's been an interesting time opening it up just right at the beginning of the pandemic. Tell me about what that was like and how the economy's changed for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly just a whole new experience. Even different than starting the initial business 15 years ago, going back and, signing that lease in February before we really knew what was going on. And then a month later, we're being told that, we can't even open the doors if we wanted to because we had to go into shutdown. So it slowed down our path to opening that store. And get this, on top of all that, the street that we were on, it's been shut down all summer. So there was unknown construction that we didn't know about. So you throw the COVID aspect on top of it. We were really just trying to figure out what we could do behind the scenes to make sure that we were poised in a position to really service those customers that we were going to eventually start coming in, and how we could look to online portals to start allowing them to sell online, build up our retail presence online so that we were building some familiarity with potential clients before they even knew we were there.
My audience are a lot of business owners and self-employed professionals, and they'd love to learn from each other. So we'd love to learn if you could share with us, like what are some of the things that you did behind the scenes to get yourself poised for the comeback, and what can you do to promote during a pandemic?
Well, I think it all started at the base of it was figuring out what what grants and other programs locally were going to be made available to us. You know, we had a great program out here in Macomb County where they were offering up to $10,000 to completely revamp your website. So we took advantage of that and we were awarded that, luckily. So we're in that process right now, which these are things that are going to be ongoing assets for our company long term. Some of the other things like the payroll protection program, those things that went out, those are temporary solutions, but this is something that's an asset long term for us. So we were really excited when we were awarded that. So we found a way to start building not only that, but a platform that allowed our customers to sell online to their crowd, because it was all about the shop local narrative. It was all about how we can save small business, how we can help small business. So we had set up online stores for a couple of the local bars and restaurants so that people could then support them in hard times by just purchasing and then we would fill those orders, and we really made it a win-win for the clients that we were working on to give them this added revenue stream when they were also looking for solutions.
So when the pandemic did hit you, did the calls just suddenly stop, or what was it like? And tell us a little bit about that. Uh, People's needs changing. What happened when it hit?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was almost like there was like this imaginary stop button that just got hit, and everybody just dropped what they were doing. Orders that you had been working on with clients, you didn't hear back from them. A lot of the schools, they were kind of the first shoe to drop where they shut everything down. We were getting phone calls from the coaches saying, I hate to do this, but we got to pull this web store, or we're not going to be able to proceed with this order because we don't know what's going on. So that was one of those things where in the 15 years of my business experience owning this company, it was the scariest time because we had never seen that happen. You know, we were basically, I was sitting in a retail shop with the doors locked, just figuring out what we were going to do next, because like you said, it just stopped out of nowhere. We weren't prepared for that. We had heard whispers of what was going to happen. So we were kind of bracing ourselves a little bit, but I don't think any of us were prepared for what was to come. Luckily, you know, for us, especially having that retail presence, we're able to do things like stock inventory or do things like that doesn't necessarily mean that we need a customer placing an order at that time. So my staff has been really, really flexible with me. Even in the beginning, my brother, Phil, he runs our production end of it. And, you know, he was like, you know, he was willing to come in and just say, hey, I get it. If we have to like do a pay freeze, or if that's what it takes to keep things moving, I'm willing to do that. So it was that support that we had from our staff too, that really allowed us to catch up on things and not fall behind for when we were ready to open back up again. So, you know, much like everybody else, we were trying to get creative. We were trying to create content on our end. We started getting into more of the podcasting, and, you know, I set up a little mini studio in the basement of the shop here and got into that more because we wanted to stay in touch with our customers, and we wanted to find a way to make sure they didn't forget about us when it was time to come back.
It's great. It sounds like a real family that came together just to try to keep it all together. In this process, did any opportunities that you didn't even foresee appear? Anything new any new opportunities, light at the end of the tunnel that you see?
Well, yeah, you know, for us as being I wouldn't say we're a large print company, but we're probably a medium-sized company. We were seeing an opportunity to bring in contract printing accounts, meaning somebody is going out and they're selling the job and we're basically fulfilling it for them as just strictly a contract printer. And as we saw COVID hit and a few of these businesses that were maybe nearing a point where they wanted to retire, or we saw a lot of people kind of getting out of the business too because they couldn't hold on necessarily, or they just didn't have a desire to. We saw a lot of people start coming to us as a result of that, where they were saying, you know, I used to work with this company, they're not around anymore. How can you help us out? The other thing is really concentrating on the decoration processes that we're offering, getting into more things like custom patches and doing tagging for retail customers, and just adding that extra element to the product that really makes it stand out and gives the customer a unique look that we may not have had the time to really look into before. We use it as a learning experience, and I think that's what a lot of people in the industry were doing.
So, Zach, you've been in the business now for 15 years. My audience, they really love to hear like what folks, how they start their businesses or what their
Sure.
inspirations were. There's a lot of my listeners that are sitting on the fence wanting to start a business, looking for that inspiration. Tell us a little bit about you, Zach, and how you started the business and what inspired you to get started in printing.
Sure. So I started the business back in 2005 with a business partner. We had gone to high school together. We were best friends growing up, and we were both attending Oakland University at the time. And we always had this passion for business. We always knew we wanted to do something. We just didn't know what it was yet. And we had always been kicking around the idea of doing our own apparel line. And those are a lot of the kind of customers we work with as well, because a lot of people always have that idea or the desire to kind of have their own clothing line, and that was we fell right into that category as well. Now, as we saw, it was a very hard path forward, but we knew we wanted to learn how to do the process ourselves, so we weren't relying on necessarily a contract decorator. So we bought a little piece of equipment. I bought it with my my graduation money, basically. We set that up in my parents' basement, built out a little office, which they were gracious enough to let us use their home to be our first headquarters. And then to kind of pay off the equipment, we started taking custom jobs. We didn't think it was the role we wanted to fall into, but we really found an audience for it. And we saw that there was a path to prosperity by doing that. We saved some cash up. We rented a place in our downtown here when I think I was about 20 years old when we got into our first retail spot. And we just kind of grew with that. We moved around a couple times. We moved into bigger space. We eventually were able to purchase a building in our downtown to set up our retail location, and we grew into a bigger warehouse. We're in 5,000 square feet of warehouse space and have a complete production facility over there. And we've really, it's a lot of trial and error. It was the support of the community. It was really figuring out where our sweet spot is with as far as what we know we can offer and what we can do quality versus trying to just grab any customer that was floating around. That was our game at first. We were really trying to just take any work that came through the door, whether or not it was, stuff that we were capable of doing. And now we found more of our niche where it's screen printing, it's embroidery, and it's, the custom services like patchwork and now tags that we're really getting into to give that extra quality into the product.
Take us back a little bit in the beginning. Was it a home run out of the gate? Were there some struggles? What was that like in the beginning? And another part of that, a big question, what did you think people wanted and you were offering and selling? And what did you find out the public really wanted?
Yeah,
Anything like that you could tell us about?
It's a great question, Mark. It's one of those things where I wish I could say it was a home run right out of the gate, and there's some, magic secret sauce, and we knew what people wanted before they knew what they wanted, but it doesn't really work that way. We really had to have a lot of trial and error. We initially had started with, it was more like a street brand that we were trying to bring to the people of our town here. And that's not what they wanted. We were selling our products along with brands like LRG and Echo, and trying to have more of a retail presence. And we just didn't have the foot traffic for that in town. What we found out that people did want retail was more of the local high school apparel. They wanted that spirit wear. They wanted Michigan themed t-shirts. They wanted Detroit themed t-shirts. So we really did a hard pivot and said, how can we still remain creative on our end, come up with cool designs, use our graphic design talent, and really shift it to a place where we're still kind of designing our own clothing, but we're doing it in a way that it appeals to our clientele. And really, the fact that we were so young in the beginning, I think really benefited our growth because, I was still living at home. I was still, able to, I didn't have to pay for my meals. Mom and dad were still taking care of that. And that's a huge asset in the beginning, starting off. Now I'm a father with 2 kids and a third on the way and a wife at home. And if I would have had all that on my shoulders trying to start this off, I can't say that it would have been the same result, so anytime, there's always going to be things that hinder you from being able to put in all your time and effort. I was working 7 days a week around the clock. Now I don't do that. At 5 o'clock, it's time to go home and you spend time with the kids, you spend time with the family, and you work after they go to bed. You just don't have you realize how to have more of a balance in life, and that's something we definitely didn't have in the beginning. It was and hope that one day it pays off.
What was that one game-changing moment for you? The one thing that happened where you finally woke up and said, "You know what? We're making it. This is happening." Tell us about that. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, I don't know if there was one specific moment. I think it was more of a culmination of a lot of things, but I think for us, when we realized that we could hire people to take some of the pressure off of our shoulders, it was realizing that we had enough work, or that the jobs were coming in quickly, that said, okay, we can finally hire somebody. It doesn't just have to be us behind the wheel with the brunt of the burden for production on our end. To say we need to learn how to build a team and how to rely on others so that we could grow, because without that, I mean, there's only so much you can get done in a given day, right? So being able to focus on other people and saying, now, okay, how do we take this business, and now you're almost teaching other people what you already know. And for me, that's been one of the hardest things. Like I have a lot of respect for people who teach, because I know how hard it is. I always am kind of like the person like, get out of the way, I'll just do it myself, because it's easier. I have a really hard time teaching people what I know, and so I know how hard that can be. But I know without doing that, you're just going to kind of be stuck in the same position. You need to rely on your teammates to kind of bring you up.
Zach, before I ask you my last question, um, for my listeners out there who are just on the fence thinking about starting a business but need some inspiration and some confidence, like what's the one big piece of advice that you would give them after all your years of trial and error and figuring it out? What would you tell folks that are sitting on the fence thinking about starting a business? What should they be considering most important?
I mean, I think it's just that risk tolerance. It's knowing going into it that the lows are probably going to be better than the highs sometimes, but those highs are so great that the payoff is worth it. I've sat back and I've contemplated, did I make the right decisions moving forward? I had to make a tough call early on into the business. I was about 3 years into um, uh, college, and I said, you know what, the business is taking off. I made the decision um, to drop out at that point, to drop out of college and say, I'm going to go all in on the business. And that's probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life. It was putting confidence in yourself and just knowing you can do it. You have to be prepared to put in that extra work, though. I mean, that stuff doesn't come. I've seen a lot of businesses come and go, and there's an element of uh, really having to just understand that you put the weight on your shoulders. You're going to have to be the one to really make sure that this is being guided in the right direction. But I've never regretted this decision once in my life. I mean, I always knew it was the right path. And I think you have to, the number one thing would be to just put confidence in yourself. You can do it. You know what your strengths and your weaknesses are. But have a plan in place. Don't just do it on a whim. You gotta see the future. Have this planned out.
That's sage advice. Zach, for our listeners out there who are near you, Romeo, Michigan, and your new location, did you say Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham.
Brigham. If they're nearby you and could use FAM's printing services or would just like to really connect with you, how do they find you?
Absolutely. Best way to get a hold of us, is always through the website, famsprinting.com. You can reach me via email, info@famsprinting.com. And, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, at famsprinting on Instagram. That's probably the best place to see some of our work showcased. But, we're always innovating on our end, always coming up with new ideas. And, we're excited to work with any companies that might be out there to say, hey, what can we provide you that you may have been lacking from your experience before with similar companies.
Zach, this has been terrific. I absolutely love speaking with you and learning about your story there at FAM's Printing. I appreciate it. And I wish you continued success for you, for your family, for FAM's Printing, and for all of your clients.
Mark, I really appreciate it. And I think what you're doing is great. I mean, connecting with business owners and, getting people to tell their stories is such an important part of the process. And I love listening to stuff like this. And I'm really happy that you asked me to be on today. So I appreciate that.
It's absolutely been my pleasure, and I know your story will be inspiring for many. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. So that's all for now. Join me on my next expert spotlight coming to you very soon. I'm Mark Imperial. Take care.